Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special Saturday edition of Light Sports Ramble. It is my pleasure to be joined with my co-host Evan Witalison, normally on Thursdays, but we had an issue with my iPhone, so we're back to some good old video camera technology, Evan. And before I get started, though, I have to wish you a belated happy birthday on Thursday. I know you were bummed out because we couldn't do the episode. It was your birthday. But happy belated birthday. I think we've got a great show in store today. As usual, we're going to do Packer Chat, and you and I had talked a few points about that. And then I'll tell you what, Evan, the Twitter Talk topic is just amazing. We're getting a lot of feedback, and as we talked before the show, we've got to kind of pick and choose now what we can fit into 15 minutes. So I'm real happy with our followers who are giving us some feedback. But I'm going to get right into it. As always, we only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to let you recap the Browns-Packers, Evan. Again, happy belated birthday, bud.
Well, thank you. As Browns-Packers played this week, I was a little surprised with the points the Packers put up, because I had projected 17-13. It looked like it was going to be that way for a while as the Packers were struggling to move football after they got a couple of big touchdowns. But they were able to control the ball. Brandon Whedon was god-awful the entire game, probably one of the worst quarterback performances I've ever seen prior to Josh Freeman. And, the Browns couldn't run the ball either. And, the Packers just wore them out, and they were able to get a couple of touchdowns late. Eddie Lacy's continuing to run hard, which is good. Which is good to see, especially when you have a defense, the quality of the Cleveland Browns, which we talked about, last week's ramble, that the Browns defense was, a top 10 defense. And then, Jared Boykin, who I had said last week, I think he was going to have a big game. He really stepped up and took control of the wide receiver position while Jordy Nelson was being, covered by one of the best corners in the game. A couple concerns that I did have is obviously the injuries again, which we saw with Jermichael Finley go down. And then penalties hurt us. We kept a few of their drives alive by stupid penalties that didn't need to happen. And then lastly was kickoff coverage. I believe they had 127 yards on 4 kickoff returns, and that needs to get cleaned up. So overall, it's a good win. It wasn't an ugly win like we've seen the past couple weeks, but it was nice seeing the Packers blow somebody out for a change.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think the score was relevant of how much we dominated that game. We had control. I'll tell you, when I was watching, it was like one of those games like I could get up and do whatever I wanted, and just felt like we were in control the whole game. But
yeah, I agree with that.
I think you bring up a good point, is that the thing that really irritated me Sunday was the penalties. I mean, I can't recall, and not only on the defensive side of the ball, but even offensively, again, a couple holding calls that are bringing plays back. When we start playing better teams, those penalties could be the difference between us winning and losing. And so, yes, we dominated a game. I don't think it was ugly. I think we were consistent this game. I mean, our play was okay considering the amount of injuries we had. But again, too, we look at it from the standpoint we've got to clean up the penalties. If we've got a 3rd and 5 and we gain 7 yards, but we have a holding penalty, now we're in a 3rd and 15. And those things are going to kill us later in the year. I mean, we've still got a tough schedule. We're clearly in the driver's seat now in the North, like you and I thought we would be. But if we don't clean up that aspect of the game, I think we're in some big trouble. How do you think we can clean up the penalties?
Just got to play more discipline, because especially the penalties on the defensive side of the ball. Roughing the kicker, 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct, offsides. They were mental errors and lack of discipline. They just got to clean it up and play more discipline. If the receiver drops the pass, you don't need to throw him to the ground. And you never want to dive at the kicker. You want when they're punting, you want to go off. You don't want to go, dive at him. They just got to play more discipline and play, better, fundamentally sound football.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some of those I think are just mental errors. And at this point, I'm not even going to use I'm a first-year guy, I'm a rookie. You've been in the league long enough now that we played enough games that you have to be mentally prepared and doing those little things. And that's going to be the difference between us making a run in the playoffs and being knocked out in the first round. At least that's...
Well, two of the biggest mental errors were by Tremont Williams and A.J. Hawk. A.J. Hawk got caught with the holding on a sack that would have been at the drive, and then Tremont Williams threw a guy to the ground, and they were veterans.
Yeah, and they're veterans. So, yeah, I agree with you. We've got to mentally get tough, especially heading into the meat of our NFC North schedule. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, we'll talk a little bit if we have time at the end of this about the preview. I don't care how bad the Vikings record is. We got to throw records out. This is the Vikings Packers. Anything can happen in Minneapolis, and an error like that could be the difference between us winning and losing. So yes, it's got to be cleaned up. And then I like your point about the kickoff coverage. I don't know if it was because that game, like I was thinking, were the players thinking that too, being a little bit passive on the coverage and not being tough? Because during the year, we haven't seen a lot of returns because I think Mastey's done a good job getting the ball into the end zone. But finally this week it was exposed, and I think that is a weakness of ours. And so I agree with you. We've got to tighten up our kickoff coverage.
Yeah, especially with our next two opponents. They both have very good return games. But, I think a lot of that has to do with just the fact that Ryan Taylor missed the past couple games, I believe, because of injury, and he's one of the top special team guys. And then, Latimer, who's one of our top special team guys, he has to start him at a linebacker right now. So I think that, the injuries are a big reason why the coverage unit's struggling right now, because they have to put people on there that are not used to being on there. But, yeah, those guys need to step up and do their job like some of the other guys are, like a Jared Boykin.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Let's move right in. That guy had a heck of a game at receiver, and I don't think it's an element of surprise. I mean, Packer fans know of Boykin. I mean, we've watched him. We knew that he could come in and play. So do you think that the Browns were just not prepared for him, or do you think the Packers put him in good situations and Rodgers gave him some catchable balls? Because he had a heck of a game.
I just think Boykin was better prepared. I think, when he stepped into the game against the Ravens, he wasn't familiar with that particular role. And it showed early because he was running wrong routes. He was on a different planet as Aaron Rodgers, as Rodgers was putting the ball where he thought Boykin was going to be, and Boykin's turning the other way. But I think Boykin was just better prepared for his role against the Browns than he was the week before. And I think, it could be that the Browns weren't giving him the attention that, they probably should have. But I think with more Boykin running, clean routes, getting off the line, putting himself in position to catch the ball, I think that's more what it was.
Yeah, he got his first touchdown. I was kind of upset he didn't make his Lambeau leap.
Came close to having two.
Yeah, came close. But no, I'm going to go down this path too with the receivers, and we can talk a little bit about. Well, let's talk about the Finley injury first. I mean, we've been just riddled with injuries, and even when we won the Super Bowl, this seems like a similar pattern. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But what I saw Sunday was Finley has the ability. He is so athletic that because our receivers were hurt, that we could move him into the slot. And that kind of made the injuries not so key because we can now use him at the slot, put Corals in, and we lost a little, but we still had options. Now with Finley out, and I mean, I'm going to say right here before we go on, God bless his health. I mean, I'm not even worried about him stepping on the field right now. I just hope he's okay as a person. I mean, that is a devastating injury, a bruise to the spinal cord. I hope he's okay as a person. But when we look at football, how is this injury, going to affect how we move forward?
Well, I think it just changes the way the Packers use the tight end position. As you said, Finley has the ability to pretty much line up anywhere on the field and create a mismatch just with his size and his athleticism. But, they just going to have to change the way they use the tight end. And Bostic is he's a pretty athletic guy. I think he could, be that next guy to step up and have a huge game this week. But obviously he's not going to be a Jermichael Finley. I think Corliss is going to play better. Like a lot of people don't realize, when Corliss was drafted originally, he was, they called him Finley Light because he wasn't quite the athlete that Finley was, but he was a heck of an athlete coming out of Penn State. That knee injury's taken a lot out of him now. That's taken a long time to get fully back from. But I think it's they're going to lack the explosive plays that Finley offered. But I think I think they're going to be fine. I think Bostic and Corliss have enough in their tank to move the chains when needed.
I agree. And so as we move forward, you and I talked about this a little bit. These young guys are going to have to now step into very important roles. And so I'm seeing good development, and that is the Packer way. When somebody goes down, we're going to develop from within, from guys that we've drafted or guys that we've signed to the practice squad. And we're not going to go out and we're not going to panic and go into the free agent market. I don't know about you, but I am so happy that the Packers didn't go down the road of free agency and sign some washed-up veteran wide receiver to come in and destroy the chemistry that Rodgers is building with these young guys. We may not see it 100% right now, but I think as they practice more, this is going to prepare them when and if Cobb comes back this season. When Jones is healthy, now we've all of a sudden developed two more weapons. And remember when we were in our heyday of offensive power, we had 5 good weapons at receiver.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of with you. I'm glad they didn't, looking at what's available in the free agent market, some of these positions, I'm glad they didn't jump out and sign anybody. There was one guy before he got signed, I forget who picked him up, that I wanted them to, I would have minded if they took him, and that was the former Browns receiver, Cribs, because he had, experience returning punts and kicks. And he was damn good at it, and with a tough Cobb back there, it was going to be difficult. But with the way Micah Hyde's taken over that punt return spot, obviously now it's not needed. But I don't want a T.O. or a Randy Moss or Chad Johnson in Green Bay. As you said, it's going to screw up the chemistry. Yeah,
definitely. So with that said, Bud, we're right over 13 minutes. So let's talk about Sunday's game. I mean, it's Packers-Vikings, and at this point, I think you throw the records out. I don't care how poorly the Vikings are playing. I don't care how consistent the Packers have been. This is Vikings-Packers in Minneapolis, where we sometimes struggle. I know Rodgers has had some good games there, but this is just going to be what I think is one physical game, two teams that hate each other, and they're going to go out, and I think it's going to be the team that makes the least amount of mistakes. And I think it will be the Packers. I mean, I think we're going to go to Minneapolis, but I don't think this is going to be where we go in and blow them out because the Vikings have their backs up against the wall. Their season is just about done, and they're going to come out because they have nothing to lose at this point. The Packers need to be on key to take the Vikings down, but I think they take them down. I think they beat them 28-17. What do you think, Bud?
I'd say 35-17, close game early, but they pull away in the end.
Yeah, what do you think the key is going to be?
Slowing down Peterson, forcing Ponder to make mistakes, and protecting the football.
I can't agree with you more, Bud. And with that said, folks, that wraps up Packer Chat. As always, our pleasure. Evan Witalison, myself. Have a great Saturday. We'll see you at the next red light.